Welcome to this explainer. If you're in your 20s right now, let's just be completely honest for a second. You are probably incredibly frustrated. Everything around you feels impossibly, almost offensively expensive. Your rent, your groceries, just the sheer daily cost of existing feels like it's completely spiraling out of control. And the craziest part? No one ever sat you down in high school to explain exactly why this is happening to your wallet. Well, today, we're going to fix that. Welcome to Doggo's world, where we're going to use dogs and their absolute, undeniable obsession with bones and treats to break down the actual mechanics of inflation.
Okay, let's dive into this, because I need you to know right off the bat that you aren't crazy. The math genuinely isn't mathing anymore. You're working just as hard, maybe even harder, but the actual purchasing power of the money you earn is actively dropping. It takes more of your hard-earned cash today to buy the exact same amount of stuff you were just buying yesterday. It's maddening, right?
To anchor this in reality, before we completely jump into the dog economy, just think about this. In the human world, back in 1950, your average standard burger cost about 15 cents. Today, you're extremely lucky if you can find that same basic burger for $5. Now, the burger didn't suddenly get 30 times more delicious, and it doesn't contain 30 times more calories. It's exactly the same burger. What changed is that your money simply got weaker.
Section 1, the breakdown. 3 reasons prices go up. Now, it can feel like a totally absurd, rigged system. And honestly, sometimes it kind of is. But mechanically, there are specific triggers that make prices surge. The first one is demand-pull inflation. It's all about scarcity. And this brilliantly illustrates the concept. Imagine 5 dogs all desperately want a tennis ball, but the store only has one single tennis ball left. The dogs immediately start a bidding war. One offers 2 bones, the next offers 3, and suddenly one dog is screaming that he'll hand over his entire life savings of 10 bones just to get it. The tennis ball itself hasn't changed at all, but because there's so much demand pulling on a limited supply, the price just skyrockets.
Then we have cost-push inflation. This happens when the actual cost of making the product goes up, and, well, that cost gets shoved right onto you, the consumer. Let's say a bunch of treat factory workers decide to quit their jobs and become full-time TikTok influencers. Good for them. But now the factory has a labor shortage and they produce half as many treats. Supply drops. Or think about a dog groomer whose rent suddenly shoots up. That standard 2-bone haircut you always get? Yeah, it suddenly becomes a 4-bone haircut. You look exactly the same when you walk out of the salon, but those higher production costs literally pushed the price up.
Now pay close attention to this one because this is the big one, monetary inflation. Imagine there are 10 dogs and a total of exactly 100 bones in the whole economy. Standard treats cost 1 bone. But then the dog government decides they want to help everyone out, so they just turn on the printer, print extra bones, and hand them out, doubling everyone's money overnight. Wow, so helpful, right? Well, treat sellers aren't stupid. They see that everyone is suddenly flush with cash, so they think, wait, why charge 1 bone when these dogs can easily afford 2? And boom, they double their prices. You have more bones in your pocket, sure, but they are instantly worth a lot less.
And that leads us straight into the dreaded wage price spiral. It's an exhausting cycle. Treat prices go up at the store. Because everything is so incredibly expensive, dogs demand their bosses pay them higher wages just to survive. The companies eventually cave and pay out more bones. But to cover those massive new payroll costs, you guessed it, the companies just raise the price of treats again. It's literally the economic equivalent of a dog endlessly, dizzyingly chasing its own tail.
Section 2. The nightmares, hyperinflation and deflation.
So standard inflation is deeply annoying. We all hate it. But the extremes on both ends of the spectrum, they are downright terrifying economic nightmares. Let's start with hyperinflation. This is when the government totally loses control of the money printer. We've actually seen this historically in places like Germany in the 1920s, Zimbabwe in the 2000s, and Venezuela. It gets so bad that you literally need a wheelbarrow full of currency just to buy one basic, not even tasty loaf of bread. A treat that costs 1 bone in the morning might cost 1,000 bones by the evening. The currency just completely collapses. Now, the exact opposite is deflation, which sounds awesome at first, right? Hey, prices are dropping, cheap treats for everyone. But wait, think about it. If you know a massive bag of treats will be significantly cheaper tomorrow or next month, you are absolutely going to hold off on buying it today. And if every single dog waits to buy, the treat factories stop making money entirely. So they let off all the dog workers. Now nobody has a job, nobody has any bones to spend, and the entire economy shrinks in a catastrophic downward spiral.
Because both of those extremes are so destructive, economists generally agree that the absolute sweet spot is an inflation rate of about 2% to 3% per year. Think of it kind of like a light jog for the economy. We aren't in a dead sprint toward hyperinflation, but we definitely aren't standing perfectly still in deflation either. A light jog just keeps the economy moving and growing forward.
Section 3. The stakes. Who wins and who loses?
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is the uncomfortable truth. Inflation isn't bad for everyone. In fact, some dogs are making an absolute killing right now. On the winner side, we have dogs with debt. If you are a young dog who took out a massive loan for college or a doghouse, inflation actually helps you. Why? Because you get to pay back that fixed loan with future bones that are worth a lot less than the ones you originally borrowed. Dogs who own assets like real estate or businesses, they also win because the value of those assets inflates alongside the prices. But over in the losers column, old dogs living on a fixed income and anyone trying to just hoard traditional cash savings. You guys are getting silently destroyed by the invisible tax of inflation.
Here is the sneaky math behind why debt can actually be a pretty incredible tool in an inflationary environment. Let's say you take out a loan at a 5% interest rate, but inflation in the broader economy is running at 3%. Meaning money is losing 3% of its value every single year. Effectively, your real interest rate is only 2%. The inflation just ate away a huge chunk of your borrowing cost. Of course, banks know this trick perfectly well, which is exactly why they charge you way higher interest rates when inflation is running hot. They demand to be compensated for getting paid back in weaker, watered-down bones.
Section 4. The solution. Bone mechanics and fighting back.
So, knowing all of this, how do you actually survive? We need to establish some very strict bone mechanics right now so you can empower yourself and fight back against the system. So the crucial point is understanding your options. Option 1, eating a bone right now. That represents spending. You get immediate joy, the treat is absolutely delicious, but the bone is gone forever. Option 2, a different dog sneaking into your yard and digging up your buried bone. That represents risk or flat-out fraud. You didn't get to enjoy the bone, and you lost your capital entirely. Really bad news.
Option 3, burying a bone and leaving it there indefinitely. That is traditional saving, and as we've learned, because of inflation, that buried bone is guaranteed to shrink in buying power over time. You are literally locking in a guaranteed loss of value. But option 4, imagine burying a bone, and while it's in the dirt, it magically grows bigger and multiplies over time. That is earning interest. That is investing. And guys, that is the only way you beat the math of inflation.
Let's see how this builds into real life. We know the system is heavily stacked against cash savings, so how do you actually change your behavior starting right this second?
First, stop burying all your bones in the backyard. Having an emergency fund is great, absolutely crucial, but hoarding massive amounts of cash just guarantees you lose purchasing power. Second, be a smart consumer. If there are non-perishable treats or supplies you know you need, buy them in bulk today before the prices go up tomorrow. And lastly, shift your mindset from a saver to an investor. You need your bones to grow. We aren't here to tell you exactly which stocks or real estate to buy, but you need to own assets that appreciate in value alongside rising prices. Learn how investing works, because while inflation in this economy is completely inevitable, poverty is optional.